Welcome to CineMyles, the show for cinephiles. I'm your host, Miles Hughes. I'm joined today by the one and only Jason Woods, who is an actor and director who I've worked with on numerous fantastical shows over the past few years. He is also one of the biggest Batman fans I have ever met, as evidenced by the wonderful collection behind us. Could you tell us a little bit about where all this came from?
Numerous places, some of it from childhood, some of it from friends, and some of it from strangers, just finding pieces through online trading sites.
Oh, yes. And we are here to talk in a series of videos about the one and only Batman.
Well done, Miles.
It's a little too theatrical for you. What better way to start off than with the man who is mostly represented behind us, and the original Batman on film, whoever it was in the black and white serials doesn't really count by today's standards.
Fair enough.
Adam West. His tenure as Batman lasted 3 seasons of a television show, 120 episodes in total, and a movie.
That's right. I actually got to enjoy random syndication in the 70s. It was released in 1966, and I wasn't born then, but it certainly was quite popular in syndication.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, that was my childhood hero for sure.
Oh yeah. What sort of drew you to that iteration of Batman?
I think color initially, the color, and then the absolute adventure of what was going on. And then, of course, as you get more understanding of who the characters are and who the villains are and what's at stake, you get invested in the story as a child. And then, of course, merchandising plays a big role in it.
So, I actually came into this version of Batman somewhat late. I'd seen the movie when I was a kid, and I'd seen a few episodes here or there, but I didn't really get it, let's say.
Sure.
It wasn't until recently, and actually through many discussions with you, that I decided to really start binge-watching the show and give it a shot. I love it now. I adore it. It's amazing. And I think part of what makes it work now is that it's so easily comparable with all the darker and grittier and grimmer iterations of Batman that have come since.
That's a great point. It is a great contrast to the dark iterations that have been released, which I think have their place and value. But it's such an interesting character that it can survive so many iterations that can stand on their own.
I feel like Batman is somehow fascinatingly malleable.
Indeed.
You can have any number of versions of him. We just had a very successful incarnation of the Lego Batman.
Right.
It just goes to show he can be very broad and silly. He can be very dark and serious, and, anywhere in between. It sticks to a very rigid formula, for the most part, especially in the first 2 seasons. There's the opening crime that happens. There's that wonderful scene where police commissioner is sitting with the other police heads in their office, and they all talk about how incompetent they are, and how they don't want to even attempt to solve any crime that looks like it could be a little tough, but they got the big red bat phone sitting there, ready to call Batman, who's thankfully always at home.
Yeah, that's right.
Usually,
Except in one episode later.
Except in one episode.
Season 2.
Yeah.
They're camping.
Then we usually transition to Stately Wayne Manor. Fun fact, when I lived in Shaker Heights, Ohio, I was actually just a few blocks away from the house that they used for the exterior of Stately Wayne Manor. I used to walk past it on my way to school every morning.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Bruce Wayne and his youthful ward, Dick Grayson, are they doing their math homework or some weird...
Practicing tuba lessons.
Tuba lessons, yeah. Or the weird chessboard where there are like 4 chessboards on top of each other. Dick always has a line about, "Oh man, I'm never gonna crack this." And then Bruce is like, "Oh, easy there, Dick. Whatever you're studying right now actually holds the key to world peace."
Yes, learning foreign languages is a wonderful way to communicate with our brothers and sisters across the world.
There you go. He's like, "Well, gosh, Batman, when you say it like that."
That's right. Holy linguistics.
Exactly. The holy anything is always so perfect. There's a little bust of Shakespeare that they press a button and the bookshelf opens and they have their bat poles, and what cracks me up is that it's written on the back of the wall, entrance to Batcave via bat poles, and then it's got Bruce and Dick written on the 2 poles so that they know which pole is which.
Well, and so the backstory there is that one time they went down the wrong poles and one of them didn't fit in the right costume. Right?
Oh my god, that's amazing.
That would have been a great show.
And then there's some sort of Wallace and Gromit device behind the scenes that changes them into their costumes by the time they land in the Batcave.
Movie magic.
Movie magic. They get into the Batmobile, they drive off, and it's that recycled film footage every time.
Every time.
And then they get the case, and then there's always the villain's hideout, where there's usually 2 thugs and a girl. Tends to be...
Always a girl.
There's always a girl there who's... This does introduce... The show has a few troublingly sexist elements that haven't exactly aged well.
Yeah, that's true.
Whenever there's a female accomplice, Batman will always have a line about, like, oh, you poor, befuddled creature. You know, this kind of mentality of the girls can't think for themselves and can't really...
That's true. However, there are a couple of episodes later where they're represented in a more positive and powerful way, and I think the introduction of Julie Newmar as Catwoman, I think opened some eyes.
Yes.
Talk about a powerhouse, and in fact, if I can just say that in season 1, her introduction is my favorite episode.
There's something fundamentally fascinating about the villains in this version, because a lot of them are playing sort of the very arch types of their characters, but they're also in subtle ways very different than what we've come to expect. The most obvious example of this is Cesar Romero as the Joker. Not quite the constantly cackling, sort of insane person that we've come to expect from the Joker. And also, interestingly enough, in this version, he doesn't even necessarily register as, like, Batman's arch enemy, per se.
No.
In every other version, it's always clear the Joker is the big guy, the big antagonist. Here he's one of them, and he's memorable, and he has a lot of great bits, but he never comes across like the main nemesis. That almost feels more like either Penguin or Riddler, I'd say.
I think you're right. I think Cesar Romero is wonderfully committed to the role.
Wonderfully committed, except for the part where he doesn't want to shave off his mustache. He'd rather just paint over it, which isn't noticeable at all.
Well, actually it is now because of high def.
It's true, yeah.
But in syndication... people didn't realize it for the longest time because of the resolution. But then the Penguin, Burgess Meredith, I think, was a fine actor. And the way he carries that off makes him so iconic.
He leans into the Penguinisms very effectively, while still... He's not like a half-man, half-bird or anything like Danny DeVito. He's human, but he has those eccentricities.
Yeah, I think the Penguin in the comic books, and I'm not really a comic book person. As a child I was. But what Burgess Meredith did, I think, is he took a very two-dimensional character and brought something to it that I think inspired other people to develop that character further, is what I think. By bringing the gravitas and the weight to his portrayal. Now, I don't mean to say that the Penguin in the Batman TV show is something that we should take seriously. But as an actor, Burgess Meredith invested himself in it and elevated the quality of acting. More so, well, Frank Gorshin probably, you and I had discussed this before.
Well, yes, what I think is so fascinating about Frank Gorshin is, in a similar way, he commits to the high campiness of it, and in a lot of ways the Riddler feels more like the Joker in this version than the Joker does.
That's good.
But the Riddler flourishes in this version partially because his modus operandi totally syncs up with the formula of the show, which even when it's not the Riddler, the villain will usually leave some kind of clue or some kind of joke or something that's not quite a riddle but is basically a riddle. And what I love about Frank Gorshin's performance is that it's so histrionic, but it also has these moments of sneaky pathos.
Right.
There's a wonderful scene where he thinks he's killed Batman and Robin, and he wants to call up Commissioner Gordon and be like, hey, here's another riddle. And his henchmen are kind of like, well, can't we just go get the treasure? Do we really have to still deal with all this riddle stuff? And he suddenly has a very sad look on his face. He's like, this is the main reason I do this. This is my entire motivation. The jewels and the crime and all that stuff are secondary to me being able to tell these riddles. And it hits at the core of the character in such a fascinating way.
It does. Can you believe there was this much in this show?
What's also interesting is that it offers a platform for a lot of sort of Z-grade Batman villains to kind of shine. You get characters like King Tut or Falseface or even the Mad Hatter, who's been in stuff but it's never that effective. He's perfect here.
Oh yes, David Wayne. Yes. Wonderful actor.
With the top hat with the little eyes.
I think it's called a super instant mesmerizer.
Which is a beautiful transition into the gobbledygook technology that's used in the show. It's all nonsense.
It is, and clearly labeled.
Very clearly labeled with made-up sounding science words, but there's always a specific machine to do some very specific function.
Indeed, in the movie, the Penguin has infiltrated the Batcave, and he says, "May I trouble you for a glass of water? Your bat gas seems to have left me with a much parched sensation." Of course, over there. The drinking water dispenser is clearly marked.
At the cliffhanger at the end, no matter what the thing is, Batman has something in his utility belt that is literally the exact thing that they need to get out of the situation.
Even if it's his highly polished bat buckle, which he uses the reflection of the sun to ignite a vat of chemicals to blow them free.
It's one of those things that I think a lot of people, they've seen bits and pieces, they know the iconic elements from it, but they also feel like they kind of get the gist and don't actually need to watch it. Actually viewing it like episode to episode, it's kind of a fascinating piece of history, both for film and television, and it's this wonderful depiction of this character that in a lot of ways gets to the root of what makes Batman a hero. I think so many versions get bogged down with the whole vigilante aspect, and with this whole, how violent can he be, and, how much is he like his criminals, except for the part where he doesn't kill.
Right.
But this version of Batman is a hero. He's a square, but he's a square of the people.
Well, he's a hero, and people like him, and there's some hero worship.
Yeah.
Which is missing from iterations of Batman where he causes suffering, pain, or death.
Yes.
So what is driving Adam West's portrayal and the whole concept, it's humor, it's entertainment, it's hero worship, which is exactly what I did when I was a kid and idolized it. It's cathartic, I think.
Yes.
Adam West, I think, he can say that there's the Dark Knight and then he's the Bright Knight.
So we both love this show. We both highly recommend it. The movie as well. The movie starts to transition into the less desirable aspects of the show. I think we both kind of agree that season 3 is where it kind of becomes something that's less true to itself, and they push for the laughs a little harder.
Well, that's where it became about money.
Yeah.
Their ratings started to fall because, and this is the truth, I think, about this iteration of Batman, is that the concept is there and there's a joke to be had. Mm-hmm. And there's only so many different ways you can tell this joke.
Yeah.
And then the audience got wise to it. So I think it becomes, taxing. That it's, okay, we know they're going to do something ridiculous to get out of this situation. Yeah. And then simply introducing Yvonne Craig as Batgirl doesn't fix anything. Saying, well, we'll put a pretty face there, that's not good. No. And as you said earlier, that's indicative of the times, and it doesn't work. If she contributed more and supported more and had a more vital role in something people could care about, then perhaps it might have. But the writing was on the wall by that season.
Yeah, well, that's the season where they're on the surfboards and they've got trunks outside of their costumes. And...
Yes, and they're being sprayed into becoming surfboards. And there are spaceships. No. Fortunately, you can just opt not to watch it. And, I don't know if anyone watching here would actually sit down and watch every single episode, but there are certain ones we could recommend.
Absolutely. Sure. Well, you said your favorite is The Perfect Crime?
The Perfect Crime from season 1 is Julie Newmar. And then another one I might recommend to people because it has a little more gritty crime TV flavor to it is the False Face episode. The jokes are not as in your face in that particular one. And then almost anything with Burgess Meredith as the Penguin.
Some of my favorite episodes are the first two with the Riddler, Hi Diddle Riddle, and then something else. They always rhyme, the two-parters.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a really great introduction into this version of the character, especially if you're coming into it fairly fresh. But I think that's going to do it for us on CineMyles.
So I have one thing.
Please.
To commemorate our getting together, I have a gift for Miles. Something that I've had for several years. And just because it's bright and colorful, it's a Batmobile with Batman and Robin. It's an older Hallmark ornament. And it's just something that you can look at and remember this time together. It's cheerful, and they're in their adventurous poses.
This is so cool. All right, well, thank you, sir. And that's going to do it for our Adam West episode of Batman Through the Years here on CineMyles. Be sure to tune in next month for our episode on the Tim Burton years.
Same Miles time, same Miles channel.
Some Miles time, same Miles channel. There we go. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, do all those fun things, and we will catch you all on the flip side. Have a good night.